Well, guys, England versus Argentina, the final game of the weekend for the Autumn Nations that we'll be covering on the channel anyway. There is still a Georgia game to get on with. Now, this game didn't go the way I expected it to. Argentina taking a win by 1 point in Twickenham, just 10 months out from seeing this game in the World Cup. But at the same time, this wasn't really the England team I expected to be seeing, but as we do in these review videos, of course, we'll be going over the match, the scores, the highlights, some stats, and some thoughts on the game. But as always, I welcome you guys to drop down in the comment section your thoughts on the game. No matter which team you support, it's always nice to hear from you guys in the community what you did think of the game. So getting into this one in the first half then. Now, a lot of rain going on in Twickenham, very wet game, not really something I wanted to see before the game kicked off. We already knew that if it was going to be wet, it was just going to turn into a bit of a forwards and a kicking game. And that's really what we got welcome to in this one. As you can see by the sort of the scoreboard at the halftime, 16-12, so many penalties is pretty much the story of this game. Makes doing these sort of review videos a bit tricky because it just sort of alternates between penalties going between teams. But in the opening 5 minutes, we saw a lot of that kicking tennis game. Neither team seemed very settled. Obviously, the ball's very wet. They're probably trying to gain that sort of 50-meter scrum by just kicking it up the field and hoping the other team drops it. Both teams handling from kicking tennis pretty good, so no one really got an advantage during that. There was an early penalty from England, which actually came from an Argentinian obstruction. Now, very early in this game, and I thought this game could get a lot closer than we expected. I expected forwards to be scoring tries. I expected 3 points to be really what we were going to be seeing as the bulk of the scoring going into this game, and it is exactly where it ended up going. Now, we saw it earlier in the weekend that scores come down to very few points, and sometimes just getting on that scoreboard nice and early would be the way to go. England turned down going for the 3 in the first 5 minutes, went for that corner, went for the driving maul, and it just didn't really go very well for them at all. Managed to be sacked pretty well down by Argentina, and they escaped with that one. It was Argentina who got on the board first in the 9th minute there, penalty coming over, huge turnover from Gonzalez, having another great game from him today. There was a little bit of a breakaway, they kicked the ball on. England absolutely sporadic in that 22, just giving away penalties left, right and centre to try and shut down a try opportunity. Did think Argentina might give it a bit of a go, trying to go for the corner. They decided not to. They were involved with game management from the start. We saw this in the Rugby Championship. Argentina sort of know they're not one of the teams that can necessarily just start hammering home tries. They're playing big teams in that Rugby Championship. New Zealand, South Africa, Australia. And although they had good games in those ones, they know they have to work hard. We saw how much Boffelli was involved in the Rugby Championship in getting wins for Argentina, and they brought the same mentality. And that's the right way to do it. If you know you're coming up against a big team and you're playing away, sometimes just always going for those 3 points is the way to go. So Argentina took the early lead 3-0. England came back only 2 minutes later. There was an offside penalty against Argentina, which drew it back to 3-3. And then in the 15th minute, Argentina extend that lead back out to that 3 points due to England being offside at the scrum. So the opening 20, very slow, very broken play, lots of knock-ons, lots of penalties and stuff. Not a very exciting game. Not necessarily the best way to have ended the weekend after some of the games we have had this weekend. We had to wait 25 minutes for the first try. This one coming in from Joe Singer. England actually managed to work themselves into a 5-meter scrum right on the Argentinian line. Lovely little set play from this. We hadn't really seen that much great attack in this game. It was a nice little set play off the back of the scrum. Singer and Tuilagi running together. Real difficult for defenders to pick which one of those boys to stop. Went one each, one-on-one with Singer from about 2 meters outside from the try line. Really hard to do. They got quite close to stopping him, to be fair, but he did get that crash ball over for the try, successfully converted from Farrell. So England took the lead once again at 10-6. And then leading all the way to the half-time marker, really again, a lot of broken play. No team really beginning to get on their feet and get a grasp of this game. I would say that the England attack looked far more in charge than Argentina, but Argentina looked pretty comfortable just sitting back and defending the game. They did score a couple of 3 points themselves. There was a jackal penalty coming in from Montoya, allowing Boffelli to get that scoreline back to 10-9. England extended it back out just afterwards with their own penalty. Then in the 38th minute, England gave away another penalty inside their own half for being offside. This was something we saw a lot in this first half. Obviously, they wanted to shut down this Argentinian attack. They've probably seen what they did over that Rugby Championship, how they got on against teams like Scotland. Some of these backs are incredibly dangerous in the Argentinian team. So there was obviously a reason behind England wanting to get off the line too quickly, but the offsides coming in, people so fast getting off that line and just being too fast sometimes, allowing Boffelli to keep them in it. And then finally in the 42nd minute, Owen Farrell did manage to get one last penalty for England Probably the best scrum of the game at this point. It was actually Argentina's put in, and the England scrum actually ran them back over. No easy feat to do. And then the England scrum just jumped on Bertrand in the back, holding him down, managed to win that penalty there. So at the halftime marker, England went in 16-12 up. It's a lot of kicking from the boots. So in terms of the halftime notes here, I just said it was a slow first half. Both teams struggling to get some flow. England are arguably on top of this half, but the penalty counts coming in from England just keeping Argentina in it. We saw Argentina do this in that Rugby Championship. Just do it again here. Keep those 3 points going. Just don't allow that lead to extend out. The wet ball was definitely slowing the game down. We saw a lot of knock-ons in this game. A lot of just whistle blowing to stop for the free kicks and penalties coming in because the ball bobbling around a lot. England trying to incorporate a lot of pop passes. This is one thing we saw a lot. Trying to incorporate using the props as these little pop passes just before they make contact. But one thing that was coming across is the speed of these passes. It was a little bit slow. That extra half a second, extra second to make sure you got the pass through, to make sure you caught the ball because it was wet, really sort of neutralized what they were trying to do. Occasionally the big boys were making through these gaps, but a lot of the time it just meant the passing was far slower to get it out wide. And then finally, the Argentinian defence in this half, very good. They were under pressure for most of the first half. They didn't really have that many attacks themselves. But to go in at halftime 4 points down, and could have been 1 point down had that penalty not come in right at the end, I thought the defence was working really well, especially when you consider things like possession. Possession in this first half, 61% to England. 61% at home, plus you're scoring tries, and you go in 4 points ahead. It's not really what they'll be wanting to see. Penalty counts 4 to England, 5 to Argentina, but turnovers 0 to England in that first half and 2 to Argentina. So even though Argentina are on the back foot, they're sort of used to it. They're playing these big teams that are used to just the relentless attack from teams like New Zealand. These boys know how to cope with it, and I thought they did pretty well today. On to the second half then, and 40 to 60 minutes. Definitely the best portion of the game. Actually began to open up. The rain had stopped. The ball was drying up a bit. We got to see teams get into it a little bit more now. Now, Argentina actually the ones to get underway here. We hadn't really seen any attack from Argentina in that first half, so nice to see them get underway. Now, England were trying to make their attack work at the start, but it was just so flat and misshapen. We didn't really know what they were trying to do. But in the 46th minute, Boffelli coming in with his try. Argentina had managed to work their way up to a line out off a penalty from a scrum. A fabulous set play, one side of the pitch all the way to the other. There was about 7 passes. Every player knew exactly what they wanted to do. Ball spread wide, dummy runners cutting inside, gets it out to Boffelli, straight in at the corner. Easy as you like. If you could do 5 of them again, you'd be absolutely smashing it. Incredibly well worked from them. And then they managed to double down on this about 4 minutes later with another try coming in from Carreras. This was maybe a bit more of an arguable one. England on the attack. A pass came out from Owen Farrell. Wasn't a great pass, to be fair. I definitely think it was going to go behind Vunipola on the way. And the ball bobbled backwards, and Carreras kicks the ball on, picks it up, and runs a good sort of 40-50 metres with the ball in hand, managing to outrun Freddie Stewart. Not an easy feat, and got himself over for the try. Now, we did go back and look at the TMO for this one to look at whether or not there was a knock-on in the tackle. In the first 3 camera angles, I would have said, nope, I think that was just a rubbish pass. The 4th camera angle we did get to see, oh man, was that tight. It's really hard to determine whether or not the ball might have scraped the Argentinian props, like sort of fingertips as it came in. Now, is it by letter of the law a knock-on? I don't know how you call that one. I think it's so hard. I think your eyes are looking for an issue, and so for it makes it feel like maybe there was more likely of a knock-on or not. I think I would maybe consider that to have been a knock-on by the letter of the law, but when it was already given as a try by Andrew Brace, I think they've got to see, maybe a full hand or something, or at least full fingers. We're talking knuckles touching the edge of a ball, slightly deviating, but I don't think it takes away from how bad the pass actually was from Owen Farrell to begin with. I think maybe if his fingers don't touch that, I still think that ball goes behind Vunipola. So maybe Argentina got away a bit lucky with that one, but I still think the pass was pretty bad, so I'm not that outraged by it, to be honest. England managed to hit back 5 minutes later with their own try. Jack Van Portvlie came in off the bench. He was on the pitch for 29 seconds and goes over for a try. I thought his injection into the game far more better than Ben Young's. Ben Young's, God, I thought he was quite poor today. Very, very slow with the ball out from the ruck. No real ability for England to make sort of any attack when you've got Ben Young's picking at the ball, taking 2 or 3 steps and sort of throwing it. God, I thought it was so slow. Jack Van Portvlie came in saw the gap immediately from the back of the ruck, picks up the ball, beats 3 defenders, runs 40 metres in for a try to arguably begin to keep England in this game. It felt like it was beginning to get away from the start of that second half, and that converted as well from foul. Draws them back, Argentina 24, England 23. Unfortunately, this is where the game took another turn for the worse, in my opinion. This was just now 60 to 80 minutes is just penalties, and we can sort of go through them, but there's so many to go through, and there's so many for the same things. It pretty much alternating. England penalty, Argentina penalty, England penalty, Argentina penalty. All of these successful conversions, both kickers today on top form, which is nice to see. But more so from what the penalties were for, I think is more of a critical angle in this one. Now, both teams given them away for very silly things. Argentina, we saw 2 or 3 penalties in this game for playing the 9, which is such an easy penalty to avoid. And if you don't have, 2 or 3 penalties knocked off of this, you win by 9, 10 points. It looks far better on the scoreboard. Just silly things, and you could see Argentina getting annoyed and stuff. We were aware of how much aggression there is in that Argentinian team, but just sometimes they misplace it and just give away silly penalties. So if they can just get their anger under control and not do stuff like that, this team can be extremely good, and looking forward to the World Cup to see where they get to with that. But England's penalties, again, not really any better. We saw Cowan Dickey having a tackle off the ball, where the ball didn't even get anywhere near the player that he was going for. We had Sinclair just lying on the ball, literally not even rolling away directly in front of the referee. England driving completely not straight in the scrum. After they made that substitution to the front row in the England scrum, it just sort of melted away a little bit towards Argentina. And just others along the way. Very silly penalties from England. And I think they'll be a little bit disappointed with how this game went, because I think realistically, a lot of these points for Argentina were just handed on a silver platter over to them. So by the time we got to that full-time whistle at 29:30, as you can see, Boffelli is the man here, just scoring tries, he's scoring conversions, he's scoring all of these penalties, and all of which I really feel most of these penalties could have been avoided. So final notes on this game then. I said very good game management from Argentina. They obviously came there with a plan. They knew what they wanted to do. They knew it probably wasn't going to be a try-fest sort of game. You just needed to keep taking those 3 points every opportunity they came, and then make the most of any open play opportunities that come your way. Absorbing the pressure in defence, extremely good for them. Like I said sort of throughout this video already, they've so used to it now. They've had 5-6 games within the past couple of months playing big teams that will put you under constant pressure, and they were able to deal with those games and come away with wins, and England is no different. I think that's a good way to play Twickenham, being able to absorb that pressure and just not allow anything through. I said England just handing the game over. So many silly penalties offering these 3 points. And then finally, that the England commentary for this game felt slightly misplaced in this one. We're listening to some of the commentary on Amazon over here in the UK. There was so often in this game, they were talking about just how fabulous England were doing. Some of the props were absolutely smashing it. Owen Farrell's absolutely killing this game. The game ended the way it went, and they were talking about how unlucky England were, how they've got so much to build on. There's so many positives. I really feel like this was quite an underwhelming game from England. In my perspective, a lot of you guys might disagree down in the comments. I thought this was quite a poor game from England. In terms of their attack, I thought it looked quite misshapen. They didn't really have a lot of idea what they were doing. They were doing 2-3 phases, and then it just felt like, let's just see who has the ball next. I thought ball from the back of the ruck was pretty slow from Ben Youngs. 2 tries that they scored in this game, Thock and a Singer off the back of quite a nice set play. Obviously from the field, they had a bit of a tough time for Argentina to defend that. 2 hard runners. I think that was well worked. Pourvilier's try was just an Argentinian player not where he should have been. It wasn't really worked. They didn't really enforce themselves on it. There was a mistake, and they made the most of it. And other than that, I didn't really have a lot of positives to look at from that England team. So I don't really know what this is about needing to just sort of minimise how badly a team does. I really think that England shouldn't be very happy with that performance, but I look forward to see what you guys do drop down in the comments. Some final stats that are just quite astonishing. Possession in this game, 63% to England. I think they might be the highest possession of any team we've seen this weekend. And not really scoring tries because of it, not really making that much ground, going for all these penalties and stuff, fair enough, but still losing the game with 63% of a possession. And that's not taking anything away from Argentina. I think that shows more how well Argentina did in defence. Total number of penalties, 9 apiece from the stats I managed to find online. Amazon still not very good for showing off some of the stats. But one of the key areas here, turnovers. So when I'm talking about defense of Argentina, turnovers in this game, 0 to England, 5 to Argentina. And you've got people like Julian Montoya getting over the ball, just so many people involved with those jackal penalties. The defensive rate from Argentina, absolutely fantastic in this game. And to be honest, I feel like Argentina deserved to win this one. But let me know, of course, guys, what you do think down in the comments. Of course, we'll have the World Rankings video coming out on Monday, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel to keep up to date with all the latest videos as they come out. And if you've enjoyed this one today, remember to leave it a like. I will see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.